Welcome to the Monuments and Movements podcast. Is freedom really free? The truth behind what most Americans are really asking for. We're going to talk about it.
Welcome to Monuments and Movements. My name's Justin. This is my man Kenny.
How's it going?
Kenny, how you doing, man?
Good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, cool, man. What's up? What's going on?
Lots going on. Another week, another exciting development of news and fun and sports. So I'm glad to be here. Glad to talk about it.
Dude, speaking of news, did you hear about Kanye West and Steve Harvey?
So I heard a little bit about it. Jesus was telling me about it, before. But they met with the CEO.
Yeah, I guess I all went and got lunch at a Chick-fil-A somewhere. It was cool with the CEO. And it's headlines, a lot of people are trying to guess what it's about. Some people think that maybe Kanye is going to choose Steve Harvey as his vice president or something. I don't know, but it was cool. I saw a video of Kanye West who went back with some of the workers at the Chick-fil-A and started singing that Close on Sunday, You My Chick-fil-A. Singing it with the staff.
I feel like if you work at Chick-fil-A, you automatically have to know that song.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like so many people, Kanye's kind of a hot topic right now, but I feel like if you work at Chick-fil-A, you definitely have to know the song.
Yeah. Dude, how epic would that be, though? If you're working at Chick-fil-A and Kanye West walks in and you get to start singing the Chick-fil-A song with him.
I remember we would freak out when any even minor celebrity went through the In-N-Out drive-thru.
Yeah. I mean, like, even if you don't like Kanye West,
oh, yeah.
In that moment, you like Kanye West.
Oh, yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I think Kanye made a lot of people might think that he lost a lot of fans, but I feel like he probably made a pretty good transition when he started making his new kind of gospel album and his whole transition in his faith and everything. I know there's quite a few people who don't like Kanye anymore, but the truth is with like Kanye fans, a lot of Kanye fans are faithful. Like, they're super faithful. Like, people will even say, like, I don't really like what he's about right now, but I still like him. I still listen to his music. And let alone all the people who are the same Chick-fil-A fanatics and everybody who are now extra supportive of Kanye because of his transition. So I think he's done pretty well for himself in that.
Oh, yeah. Dude, all I'm saying is I'm excited because now he's putting out gospel albums and now I can listen to his music.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to now, so it's cool. But yeah, that would have been cool to see that and to jump in on that.
Yeah, it would have been. I mean, when you're with a CEO, it's kind of I don't know, it was always kind of intimidating when we worked at In-N-Out, and you might be able to remember the fear that the president of In-N-Out would strike into the hearts of all the employees.
Yeah.
I remember hearing horror stories of Lindsay Snyder, and sorry, Lindsay, if you are watching this, but she would, if I remember hearing one story, the drive-thru person was out there on the little pad, and she took the order wrong, and Lindsay snatched the iPad away from her and started taking her order herself. And I don't think that girl lasted much longer.
I've never had that kind of experience. But anyways.
Well, hey, basketball playoffs are up and running.
Oh, that's right.
It's like
You've been watching?
Week 1 of basketball playoffs. I think the Lakers are playing their second game. I haven't really had the chance to watch yet. Basketball is kind of the times are a little bit funky. I know they were pretty deep into the season before everything got put on a screeching halt.
Right.
But so there was some teams, they just finished. They gave some extra teams like the ability to make their way into the playoffs. I know the Suns. I think the Suns went like 8-0 and still didn't make the playoffs just because of how everything fell into play. But
it's a bummer.
It's so they're doing the whole bubble thing. They have all the players locked down, and they're pretty much on. I hope they make a documentary about it. It'll be pretty cool one day to see. But
they're locked down at Disney World, right?
I think so, or the surrounding areas. They're locked down in a huge like hotel complex. I think it is Disney World. And I mean, here you have all these just NBA players, and they're only like, associating with each other, and pretty. I think it's pretty cool, but.
Some team bonding.
Yeah, and then you have on the other side of the sports platform, there was a rookie from the Seahawks. All the NFL players are supposed to be kind of on a lockdown during their camps right now, and you're not supposed to have any visitors. And a rookie got cut from the team because he tried to sneak a girl in to the hotel. And the best part about it was he tried to dress her as one of the players. So.
Were they married?
No.
Well,
no.
moral of the story. There you go. They'll be doing that.
I mean, and the guy, poor guy. I mean, his whole career is. I mean, maybe he'll get another shot somewhere, but for now, he's missing out on millions.
Yeah.
Something I did want to ask you about in terms of NBA. Paul Pierce said today, if the Lakers, so right now the Lakers are down 0-1 against the Trailblazers.
Yeah,
against the Trailblazers.
Yeah.
So they're down one game. It's only the second game, but Paul Pierce actually came out and said that if the Lakers lose in the first round of this playoffs, that in regards to LeBron, he doesn't want to hear any more of that GOAT talk.
Ooh, shots fired.
And I wanted your opinion on it because I know you're a huge Jordan guy, and you've definitely seen basketball through Jordan and Kobe, and now into the LeBron age, if we categorize it as such.
Yeah. I mean, the GOAT talk. I mean, I hear what Paul Pierce is saying, but that talk's always going to be there. But LeBron James. Okay, so are you asking if I think LeBron's the GOAT?
Yeah, what do you think about that? What do you think versus what you've seen in Michael Jordan or in Kobe? Like,
yeah, I would say that I'd probably argue that LeBron James is probably the greatest in the league right now, and a strong argument can be made that he's the most talented of all time. But I wouldn't put him as the greatest of all time. I'd still put Michael Jordan as the greatest.
And I guess the case Paul Pierce is making is like something that Jordan probably gets talked about a lot, and you might be able to attest to that, is just the sheer, like, put the team on your back, like, we're going to win this game if I have to do it all by myself.
Yeah. Yeah, so I grew up watching Jordan, and, I mean, I was a huge fan. Mm-hmm. You know, I had all the shoes, I had all the jerseys. I had the Chicago Bulls locker when I was a kid. That's what I put my clothes in. I had all the posters. Cool. I still have over 100 Michael Jordan cards, so Michael Jordan was my thing. And the biggest difference I'd have to say that I see between the two, right, is LeBron James. The guy is talented. The guy is dominant. Mm-hmm. When he really turns up, he turns up. And when he turns up, you can't do anything. You just have to get out of the way, right? You see people getting out of the way. You should see him dunking on fools.
Right.
See him doing whatever he's got to do, and he just dominates. Right. So with LeBron, you have to get out of the way. But with Michael Jordan, you couldn't get out of the way, right? Michael Jordan might not have put up as many numbers as LeBron, but Michael Jordan just controlled the game. Right. It was just a different game. Right? Like, if he wanted to get at you, he wasn't just going to dunk on you. Uh-huh. He was going to humiliate your whole team. He was going to get inside of every player's head. Mm-hmm. If you tried to, like, run away, he would find you and come grab you and humiliate you and then dunk on you. Uh-huh. And he just literally controlled the whole tone of the game. He wasn't just a bulldozer that just bulldozed over everyone. Right. He would get in their heads. He would change the tone of the game. He would just manipulate players like puppets. Wow. Just embarrass them. And he would still win. And even off the court, just his psychological game. So I feel like Michael Jordan was a lot more exciting to watch. And just overall, maybe he's not as great as LeBron in his technical skills. Sure. But in terms of how he approached the game and how he played the game and how he dominated people, I'd say Jordan's a GOAT, hands down.
Huh. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I hope to watch a little bit more of the playoffs and get a little bit into it. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Right now, baseball's in full swing too, and football's starting up. So it's getting interesting.
Yeah. I got to tune in, man. I haven't been tuning into sports. I've just been looking into other things. So I gotta.
Well, moving on, I guess. Diving a little deeper, we're just gonna go for it here. Something I wanted to bring up. Our resident news breaking expert, and I say resident by not resident, Mrs. Cardi B, Miss Cardi B, whatever B stands for. I don't know what her last name is. Yep. Had an interview with with Vice President Joe Biden.
Oh, cool.
The presidential hopeful. Did you have a chance? You had a chance to watch it?
I heard a little bit about it and I saw some snippets of it, but haven't really sat down and watched it. No.
So it was an interesting video interview. I really see in terms of political marketing thing. without getting into too much of the weeds of what, whether I agree with whatever, who cares? But there's enough of that on the internet. It was good to listen to Joe Biden actually be able to communicate with somebody who is skilled at speaking a specific English dialect, as Cardi B is. It was an interesting conversation, but I thought it was productive, and it kind of shed some light on some things. But we wanted to talk about a couple of things that they kind of brought up. What do you think? What was your initial take on the conversation being had?
So I saw bits and pieces of it.
Right.
I think first and foremost, I think the whole premise of the interview is interesting. It's an interesting link up. Mm-hmm. If I was the guy planning, who Joe Biden was going to interview with, or mm-hmm. who Cardi B was going to interview with, I guess I never would have put two and two together right. like that. But it makes sense, he's trying to go after the culture, not just after people who are into politics. He's trying to go after young people.
Right.
And so it makes sense. It makes sense that he'd talk with some pretty popular icons in the culture today. Now, to be honest, I'm not too familiar with Cardi B. I haven't really listened to any of her music. I don't know a lot about her. But the portion that I did watch, she was basically talking about, he'd ask what she expected, I think, from a president or from the government. Mm-hmm. And what she was basically saying was, equality for blacks. She was saying free college, free Medicare. And, just a few of those talking points. And so that was a part that I watched.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, one thing that really, and I think the whole point that I was trying to get across was, Vice President Biden was trying to group, I guess, Cardi's views or Cardi's questions. Like when he asked that question, he kind of asked it in a way. I think he asked it kind of twice, but one thing he said was, what do you think most 18 to 23 or 24-year-olds, most of your followers, your young millennials, what do you think they want in a president? And that's when Cardi kind of started listing off all of her wishes. But and I guess we can get into this a little bit more. But I feel like there's this culture or this idea of free, and this idea of things being given away free. I mean, free college, free health care.
Yep.
Like we mentioned before. I mean, we grew up school when free lunches really started and kicked off. I mean, you graduated. And you paid for college on your own. I mean, you know the struggles and the hardships.
Yeah, man. Full-time student, full-time job, full-time ministry.
And you did it, and you graduated pretty high up there in your class, right?
Kept me out of trouble. So.
But I feel like there's this idea of man, that I feel like our generation really needs to have a sit-down conversation and understand. And, there is some truth. Should college be made more affordable? Sure. Should healthcare be made more affordable? Sure. And there's a lot to that, but I think just the concept of handouts and the concept of the good old-fashioned American, like, pick yourself up from your bootstraps and make something happen.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be had, and I'll kind of pass it to you with this story. I was talking actually to a friend, and he was saying locally his parents owned a business or so, or one or two, and they owned some properties, and they've done really well for themselves since they came to the United States. And his father recently passed away, and he said his dad was old school kind of Hispanic, like always wore the same kind of jeans, same shirt, same look to him. Didn't really buy anything flashy. There wasn't much to him. He wasn't into all that. Well, when his dad passed away, he was saying how they found like huge sum of money that he had just been stashing for all these years. And he was going on to explain like, yeah, my mom owns like 12 houses and so many restaurants. Sorry, fly was dive bombing. So many, man, it's so smoky outside. The flies are trying to get away from all the smoke. Sorry. And so basically what blew me away with the conversation is he was talking about how, he didn't really find out until his older years, so like, right now that his family's actually pretty well off, but he understands the value of a dollar. Like he understands, and I never knew that I knew his family owned a restaurant, but I never knew that they were really well off. I mean, owned like 12 houses and a bunch of different properties and stuff. And because what blew me away about their families, they were always super duper humble and so nice. And they lived in a house that was enough for all of them. Like, and they never were flashy, their whole family. There was a lot of brothers and a few sisters. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, you talk to somebody like that and it really makes you, think about like, wow, here this is, this guy, he had a lot growing up, but his parents took time to teach their family the value of a dollar. And I think that's what is at stake here, is learning the value of hard work, the value of what it means to go to school full time and do ministry full time and work and study and do all these and be involved in extracurriculars and all these different things and pay your way through college. As hard as it may be, it taught you, specific values, right?
The grind, baby. Yeah.
So what do you think about that? The concept of our generation kind of wrestling.
The concept of free stuff.
Right.
Well, so here's what I hear. Going back to the interview. All right, once again, I didn't listen to it very long. But, when I hear her saying, we want free education, we want free healthcare, not even from a policy perspective, but just kind of from a 50,000 feet above the ground, what is this person saying? Is I think what she's communicating to Joe Biden is that we need help. Right? Now, obviously, to her, the concept of help looks like free education, free healthcare, right? How do we help people, especially during COVID, right? And people losing their jobs, which means they're probably losing their insurance and all, in this crisis. Like, how are we going to help those people? Or the education thing. I mean, education is a whole topic in and of itself we could talk about. The point of an education is eventually so that you can function in society, right? So you can get a job and you can become a functional part of society.
Right.
It helps get you in the door. The problem is that not a lot of people, it's hard for people to get in the door these days, right? It seems to be crowded. It seems to be a lot more of a struggle than it was 20, 30 years ago. Right? So not even from a policy perspective, but just up in the sky high view. What I hear her saying is, my people need help.
Right.
I know she did emphasize, black communities a lot more.
Sure.
But, so I really think that's what she was asking.
Sure.
Now, the thing about what's the answer to that is, our generation likes to think, well, free stuff, right? Medicare for all, free. Free education, free this, free that. And I think that sounds great on paper, but just in reality, it doesn't work.
Right.
Right, because, you've heard the saying before, right? Freedom is not free.
Right.
And usually that means, that people had to pay a very heavy price so we could have our freedom, right? Which, thank God for the military and for the veterans.
Right.
And for people who are in the service. Man, I have so much respect for them, and I'm so thankful for them. But the statement that freedom is not free is true about freedom, period. What do I mean by that? Is once you make something free, right? Freedom is all tied up in responsibility. You can't have freedom without responsibility. The second you want freedom, it means that you have responsibility. Right? Now, the thing about something being free is there's no responsibility with that, right? A gift, someone gives me a gift,
Sure.
right? No strings attached. There's no responsibility that comes with that. It's cool, right? A gift is cool, but it's not going to teach me responsibility. It's not going to help me be a free person, right? I love gifts. Gifts is my love language. I love buying gifts. I don't really care to receive gifts as much, but, when you give something for free, it's cool, but it doesn't help you in society, right? So freedom always comes with responsibility. So, for example, let's just take the free education. So, for someone to say, it's my right to have free education, right? It's really a rights issue. Mm-hmm. And you can't talk about it in the realm of rights because, rights, who has what rights? Who says which rights are which? Obviously, we have the Bill of Rights. But, who's to say this right is wrong or who's to say that you have the right to do this? Guns, right?
Right.
There's a big argument. Well, who's to say you have a right to have guns? Well, it's in the Constitution. Well, rewrite the Constitution,
Right.
When you start getting in the topic of rights, it's a little more subjective.
Sure.
Right. So when you start thinking of it in terms of responsibility, right, that's really where the logic jumps in. So, for example, if you're saying, I have the right to free education, what you're really saying is someone has a responsibility to educate me.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, we don't look at it like that, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to live in a society that's free, and if you want freedom, freedom always involves responsibility.
Wow.
So now it becomes a different conversation. Okay, well, I need a free education. All right, well, whose responsibility is it? Is it the teacher's responsibility? Should a teacher have to give their time for free to educate me? Most people would say no, right? Even people who demand free education would say, no, teachers need to get paid.
Right.
Okay. Well, then whose responsibility is it to make sure that teacher comes and educates you? Mm-hmm. People will say, well, it's the government's. Right? Well, the government, when you say it's the government's responsibility, essentially what you're saying is it's my responsibility, or it's your responsibility, or it's anyone who pays taxes.
Sure.
The government isn't like some provider, right? You've seen The Wizard of Oz, or you know the story of The Wizard of Oz, right? You've got this face of the government, but really what funds the government is us.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So really what you're saying is that it's other people's responsibility to educate me. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that becomes a weird kind of conversation. And the same is true with healthcare, right? I mean, healthcare is obviously a lot more complicated.
Sure.
I think when you talk about responsibility and freedoms, I believe one of our God-given responsibilities, right? It says it in the Bible. This isn't a government-instilled responsibility as much as a responsibility instilled by our Creator, right? So I believe we have the ultimate responsibility to look out after people and have compassion on people, right? So problems like education, people can't get educated. Yeah, I think we have a responsibility to do something about it. Healthcare, right? People can't get healthcare. I think we do have a responsibility to do something about it.
Sure.
But being responsible, right? And, this is my opinion and just, my reasoning is that just giving away free stuff is not the responsible way to answer that problem.
Sure.
Right. So, for me, and see, stepping back, you have different perspectives, right? Typically, you have the liberal and you have the conservative perspective, right? The liberal perspective, I'm going to use a lot of generalizations here. I get, I'm oversimplifying it, and I get not everyone believes that. But typically, the liberal approach is, you deserve free healthcare and you deserve free education. A typical conservative response would be, you can go out and earn an education, or you can go out and earn free healthcare. Right. And so an argument can be made for both.
Yeah.
But how do you do it? I believe the answer, right? So not getting into the weeds of should you not provide free stuff, right? But the answer, looking back to responsibility, what is our responsibility? Well, let's start with education. Mm-hmm. Well, if we're not going to demand that people give their time for free to educate someone, or we're not going to demand the public to pay for your education, if I'm not going to assume that a stranger I don't know should fork over money to me, because even just the public school system, just for kids, it's like $15,000 a year per kid.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Right.
And that's a whole nother discussion as well. But, I think what's more effective than me just trying to demand someone to pay for something is, me going into the trenches, right? Me meeting with people one-on-one, me having personal contact, and helping that person get an education, right? It's on the ground. It's in the human interaction, right? Historically, the government is very bad at solving people's problems.
Yeah, right.
Right? I'm not a bash on the government, right? The government has a certain function, obviously military, enforcing the law, all these kinds of things. But when it comes to really helping people with their problems, they just don't have a good track record. Because, to be honest, I don't think they're equipped to do it.
Right.
I think you and me, we're equipped to do it. Right? I think our neighbors are equipped to help us.
Sure.
I think our family and our friends, we are equipped to help each other.
Right.
Right. So, I'll use this example. Right? You're talking about your friend, for example, whose parents brought him up, teaching him the value of hard work, teaching him the value of money. So I graduated from Cal Poly, I think, in 2009, right? And I had someone come up to me. I'm trying to be as vague as possible. And he basically said, this guy was black. And he said, hey, listen, man, you're a college graduate now. I'm like, yeah. He's like, bro, you're a sellout, man. You're selling out to the white man. You think you're all this.
Wow.
You ain't hood, you ain't black, and just slowly starts going off because I graduated school.
Wow.
Right. And, at first I'm like, well, forget you, man. You're dumb if you don't want to go to school and you don't want to get an education and you don't want to better yourself.
Sure.
Well, forget you. But then when I started thinking about it, I started thinking about how this guy grew up, right? I knew his family. I knew his family's upbringing. The guy grew up in a pretty broken neighborhood, right? Grew up running around with gangs. And he grew up in a culture that told him, that college is for sellouts. He grew up in a culture that told him poverty was the thing, right? Being poor was the thing, right? Being poor was cool, right? Once you're rich, you're a sellout. And so, this guy, I could tell him till I'm blue in the face, come on, man, lace up your bootstraps. Come on, get out there, work hard.
Right.
But he literally can't hear it. Right? He has been conditioned. He is a product of his environment to where he can't just hear that. Right? Just like your friend is a product of his environment.
Right.
And so the problem with that is what you have is, you have people saying, okay, well, earn your education. Right? Go earn a job. Go do this. But that person's never seen it. And so I think to honestly help people, and I think this is a personal responsibility that I take, right? I don't believe the government is the one that should, enforce it, right? I think this is something that, we do as people out of our hearts, out of compassion, is we go and we just spend time with people and we get in their lives and we invite them in our lives.
Right.
And I remember this young man, at first I was really offended. But then I just started hanging out with him. I started hanging out with him in his world, and I just started taking him under my wing, if you will, right? Discipling, mentoring him.
Right.
And once he started being a part of my life, and he started seeing, hey, if I just don't go out with the gangs all day and, I'm just not hanging out in the streets all day, but, I can hang out with people who don't insult me all the time. They're cool. I could just chill, I could read a book. I eventually got him to read a book. He's like, bro, I read a whole book by myself.
Wow.
Right? And, this young man eventually ended up going to college. Right? Graduated 4-year university, and now he's got a job. What company is it now? Oh, some company up in the Bay Area. Right?
Okay.
And he graduated in IT. Now, if I had just drawn the line in the sand and be like, no, man, you need to lace up your bootstraps. You could do it. There's all the opportunity in the world for you. Stop being a victim. Stop being a loser. And I just left it at that. That guy would still probably be on the streets.
Wow.
Right. But if you're gonna help people, right, a policy's not gonna help people.
Right.
Right. Same way, just giving free stuff's not gonna help people, because what they need is they need a culture shift. They need a mentality shift.
Yeah.
And so I honestly think the way that you help is not necessarily by just giving out free education. Those scholarships are awesome.
Right.
Which I think private America and corporate America is a very good resource for scholarships like that. You know, I don't think the government, once again, is very good at that.
Mm-hmm.
But not only just trying to throw money at things, but actually throwing your time and your energy, effort, and helping people.
Right.
I think that's the answer.
Sure.
You know, so when I listen to that interview, it's easy to get caught up in the, more free stuff. They just want free stuff. You know, I'll admit that's sometimes my knee-jerk reaction is when I start hearing free. You know, there's a classic meme from The Princess Bride. That word free, I don't think it means what you think it means. You know, you've seen that meme?
Yeah.
You know, but the truth is, if you can look past just a generation wanting free stuff,
Right.
really what they're saying is a generation that's saying, help us.
Sure.
And so I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
Discipleship, mentorship, take people under your wing. Show them how to do it.
Yeah.
Don't just tell them. Which, going back to liberals and conservatives, I think liberals are very good at that. Right. I mean, even just look at the interview, right?
Yeah.
Joe Biden going to Cardi B, who's someone who's a pretty popular figure in the culture, right? They're going into the culture. And the question that he asked was a pretty smart question.
Right.
What does your generation want? Right. Versus on the more conservative side, I think they tend to have more logical solutions for things. Well, you know, how are we going to help you? Well, you know, if you work hard and you go, you know, this will happen, and there's opportunity, great, but that side doesn't necessarily go to the people. So it's kind of this push-pull where it's like, I don't really think the liberal answer is right, and I don't think just the conservative answer is right.
And I feel like, you know, you said something that kind of shifted my perspective a little bit. You said, you know, look at what she's saying. You know, she was saying, you know, free this. But, you know, you said if you look at from 50,000 feet up or whatever, that you actually hear her saying that we need help. And I think, you know, to play both sides of the tracks, you know, you and I, we grew up in a culture that's like, you know, we didn't get help paying for college.
Yep.
We weren't, you know, and not to hate on anybody who did. I have tons of friends who did, you know, but we didn't, you know, our parents weren't in a position to you know, fork over money for college or, you know, you bought a house on your own. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have that opportunity. And to those who do have that opportunity might not understand, it might be easier for that person to say, like, yeah, do it on your own. I did it on my own. But to a lot of people, and, you know, the Hispanic community, especially, you know, I'm half Mexican, and a lot of Hispanics, especially where we live, kind of get clowned on a little bit for living with their parents forever. And while I don't necessarily agree with it, I believe that a man should it's good for a man to move out on his own and learn to you know, hunt for his food and
that's right,
and you know,
hunt and kill, all
that stuff, learn how to be a man. But at the same time, you know, I have a lot of friends who, let's say, their parents helped them out buy a house. That's awesome.
Yeah. Go
Go for it. If you're in a position to do that, I hope I can be in a position to do that for my children one day. A lot of other people that I know, their parents weren't in the position to do that. So the alternative is, well, here, I'll let you live here for X amount of years rent-free. That's their way of giving back to their children. Yeah. So while it might be looked down upon in some matters, like I said, I do believe that. I mean, I moved out at a very young age. Like, I do believe that it's good for it's not necessarily healthy for a guy to live with his parents forever. But
we lived together for a while.
We did, and that was
fun.
some formational time in my life. And so I get it when you put it that way. We need help. Yeah, we do need. There's so many people I know that they didn't have the option to go to school because as soon as they graduated, it was, hey, you gotta go to work now. You gotta help feed your family. You gotta help feed your parents and your siblings. And now, fast forward a couple years, now they got their own family, and they're still not even legal to drink.
Yeah.
And you know, their whole life is now about working. I just got to put food on the table, and they didn't have the luxury of having a scholarship. And don't get me wrong, there's tons of grants, there's tons of scholarships out there, but you know, that just wasn't an option for them to be able to go to school and work as many hours as they needed to work at a fast food place to provide for their family. At the same time, I do know a lot of people who have came from the same culture that I've come from, who have went to college, who have done the scholarships, the essays, the grants, and all these things, and they have made it work. But those are, to be honest, far and few in between. And so I do hear that. I do hear that we need help. And like you're saying, I think that there needs to be a lot more people being taken by the hand, a lot more mentorship, a lot more, let me help you, let me show you what to do, let me show you these forms to fill out, let me show you these grants to fill out, these scholarship foundations to look up, to research.
Yeah.
Let me help you. Let me show you these
because there are resources to get where you need to be.
100%, there are resources to get where you need to be. There is free money already out there, but there is also something being said. I for a long period of time, you and I, we disciple young guys, and you could probably attest to this. For a period of time, as these guys that I was kind of helping mentor were coming out of high school, they would leave my house, and I would look at the trash or look at the mess, and I would just be very few of them would actually care to wash a dish or hey, can I take out the trash for you or clean up. It's or when you go on a road trip with some of the younger guys.
Yeah.
And you get out of your car and you're like, what the heck is this in my back seat? Where did you get this bag of gummy worms? Why is it melted? Why is there a mess back here? But it's just the principle of being able to fend for yourself. And you don't learn that until you have your own car, until you have your own living room that you're responsible for cleaning, until you have your own fridge that if it spoils, if the food spoils in there, mom's not going to clean it out.
You don't learn responsibility until you have freedom.
Right. 100%.
But if you never step up in the freedom, you never learn responsibility.
Right. So I mean, there's a lot more gray area than there is just free education, yes or no. Free healthcare, yes or no. There's a lot more gray area than I think that is being portrayed.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as easy as, give people free, because on the other side of that, we have seen what happens when you give people free stuff. Like you're saying, you don't learn responsibility for it. You don't learn value for it. How you went to St. Joe's. A lot of kids get baller cars when they turn 16 that go to certain private schools, and more power to them. If you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
But how many of those stories ended up in very responsible actions being?
Well, so I've got a really cool story about that because I had the coolest car in my high school. But it was an old car, old 1972 Chevy Nova. And it was, fixed up, restored. It only had a straight 6 in it. But it was the coolest car on campus. I won the car shows on campus and everything. But how did I get it? It kind of sat in the driveway for years. It was my mom's old car. And, we used my mom's old car for parts. We ended up getting another old one, and we kind of joined the two. Sure. Just parts from one and the other. But my uncle told me the day I turned 15, he said, look, get a job, help your mom out with their bills, and, just help your mom out. If you do that, I'm going to help you fix up the Nova. Wow. I said, all right, I got a job. Start working in and out.
Yeah.
Right? Even while I was in school, I was still working, helping my mom out, getting a little cash on the side. And my uncle, he helped me fix up the car. He did most of the work, and then once the car was fixed up, he showed me how to work on it when it broke down, since I didn't have money to go to the mechanic. He lived out of town, so I'd call him on the phone. I'd have my notepad out, tell me how to fix it. I'd have to go try to learn how to fix it.
Wow.
Right. And so I still, even though I went to school with a bunch of people who their parents bought the Beamers and whatnot, I still had the coolest car. It's probably one of the least expensive cars on campus for sure. Right. But see, that just goes to show freedom and responsibility. Right. Now, I never would have learned that if my uncle didn't say, hey, you need to get a job and help your mom. Right. And fortunately, the principles I learned from that, helped me in other areas of life. Helped me get through school, helped me apply for scholarships. And,
Yeah, and I think we do live in a pivotal time in America where these decisions are being talked about more and more and more. And the discussions are to be had. But at the end of the day, however way the pizza's cut up, I guess to say, whichever way it's done, there's still the great opportunity that we have to it's there. If you want it, you can get it. I don't think anybody is necessarily, I don't think there's any law necessarily prohibiting anybody from going out there and getting it. I mean, my buddy I was telling you about, his parents moved here from Mexico.
Yeah.
And so he was first generation. And my parents, I think my parents might be third or fourth each. My dad's family from Italy and my mom's from Mexico. But and so just a story of like you can go out there and you can get it. You can do it. What an opportunity we have where you're not necessarily locked in to not making it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's so many resources available. I mean, even if you don't go to school, right? You got the library.
Right.
Most of the textbooks I learned from in school that I paid hundreds of dollars for,
Sure.
because textbooks are pretty pricey.
Right.
Most of those same books are in the public library for free.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? So, I mean, the resources are there, but once again, if you've never seen it, if it's never been modeled to you, if no one shows you where those resources are and no one
It looks impossible.
mentors you and is in your corner to help you, you can throw all the resources in the world you want at that person. But until someone shows them,
Wow.
they're going to stay in the same place.
Wow. So good.
So,
Well, hey,
Yeah.
let's finish up here.
How's Cardi B for you? Cardi B and Joe Biden.
Look
There we
at
go.
that, spurring a productive conversation. Who would have thought?
That's cool.
Well, hey, let's finish up here with some good news takes.
Okay.
We wanted to do something a little more. We hardly hear any good news.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
The bad news is so highlighted and so loud. But
Good news is a resource. We got to get out there. We got to show people the resource.
there you go.
Good news.
There it is.
Yeah.
So we had one of them. What was the one story? I know we don't got a mic on you, Jesus. What was the one that a hospital team helped a patient with COVID propose to his fiance or his wife at this point?
They're getting married.
They were getting married in the hospital. That was the video you showed me.
Able to say I do.
And he
In
was
the
able
hospital?
to say I do.
Yeah.
I do.
How did that work?
It went pretty good. You could tell he was struggling to talk, but
Gotcha.
he made it happen.
Made it happen.
So okay, here's the thing. It's an awesome story. This is amazing. But this is how you know that it was the guy who was sick and proposed and not the other way around. There's no way that my wife would have let me propose to her when she was in a hospital bed.
Yeah, that's true.
There's no way. She would have said no. There's no way she would have let me propose to her. She would have said no, and it wouldn't have. I'm glad this dude got his lady to say yes, and they
You
got
can't
married.
say no to someone in a hospital bed.
If you're in the hospital bed,
If you're in the hospital bed, yeah. But if someone in the hospital bed,
ask you, it's pretty much definitely
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
if they ask you for anything, you kind of got to say yes.
Okay. Here's another one. Another cool, fun story I read. Good news story is an animal hero helped rehabilitate and revive, I guess, a two-legged huntsman spider.
Really?
Yeah. Have you seen a huntsman spider?
They're pretty gnarly.
They're like huge.
Yeah.
I think you have to be a special type of human to care for those things in general,
Yeah.
let alone rehabilitate a two-legged one.
Yeah. Rehabilitating animals. You know what's crazy? So sometimes like I'll be scrolling on my social media, and for some reason now I get all these ads. I think maybe it's because I had my dog, but I always get like these ads or these little videos of like puppies being rescued or like
Yeah.
puppies playing, and I just get sucked in. I'm like, oh my god, and I don't know. I get sucked in, man. I'm like, did I just spend 3 minutes watching a video of puppies play together, like getting my heart warmed? What is happening?
You know, I get those ads, but that is because I follow tons of dog profiles on purpose.
Yeah.
Google's listening.
There's one more. You say Google's always listening?
Yeah.
There is one more. I don't know. Do you have any other good news stories, Jesus?
No.
I got good news. Movies are opening up pretty soon.
They are. Are you going to go?
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
Okay, well, last one as we close out. To honor his late father, Man learns to cook on YouTube, and now he owns a thriving restaurant.
Dude, legit. See? Resources. They're there.
Resources,
Just
baby.
go for it. That's cool. Well, hey, this was fun. Let's do it again. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify, Google Play, whatever podcast platform you listen to, thank you. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit like. Make sure you leave a comment. And we'll see you next time.
Peace. Peace.